Very much. Back with the panel, the National Taxpayers Union Senior Fellow, Mattie Duppler. Mattie, to you first on this. That's a tax that affects everybody, the payroll tax, if it goes up to the degree that Senator Sanders wants. And by the way, he's not alone, as Hillary pointed out. There are varying degrees to which they're going to target that. That's a big jump.
Yeah, I mean, remember that almost over 40% of Americans don't have an income tax liability, but every worker in America has a payroll tax liability. So increasing that payroll tax is highly regressive, and every worker in America will feel it. Plus, all the professionals tell us that an increase in the payroll tax is going to result in decrease in wages so employers can shoulder that heavier burden. What that will do will decrease productivity, decrease take-home pay for workers. If that's the vision that Democrats want to give Americans, that's one thing. But it seems like an unlikely vision to win over Americans, particularly in a key state like Iowa.
Danielle, one of the things that people look at when they look at the Democratic candidates, they all want to raise taxes to some degree. And they said that for markets would be a jolt because they've been used to taxes being down at this level. So even a nominal uptick would be jarring. Do you buy that?
Well, look, it's a matter of simple math in a country where last year, for example, 90% of GDP was consumption. So normally it's closer to 2/3, 70% of the economy. But this would be a serious hit to consumption and almost certainly spook the markets and bring on recession risk very, very quickly. If you're talking about that magnitude, again, of a hit to consumption in a consumption-driven economy.
Brooke, the argument the Democrats have, well, everyone was worried about that when Bill Clinton became president. He raised taxes on the upper income. Now, he did lower business-related taxes. We had a market boom that was very, very strong. So what do you think of that?
I mean, if you look at what Bernie Sanders supporters are concerned about, I think it's what that gentleman said, that he's not worried about raising taxes, he's worried about tax fairness. And so what Bernie is selling to his supporters is that even though we're going to raise your taxes a little bit, what you get in return for that will also be greater. And we're also going to raise taxes for the 1%. That's the line, right? 1%, 1%. So as long as he drives that message home and his supporters trust him, which they do, I don't think he's going to see a lot of pushback from that.
If he were the standard bearer, John, and that could happen, market response would be?
Negative. Let's not forget that we don't have many defined pension benefit programs anymore. There's 100 million Americans that are depending upon their 401ks to fund their retirement. And if the stock market goes down significantly because who the presidential candidate is, it's going to make it all the more difficult for that candidate to win the election. This upcoming election, you will never have the equity market matter more compared to previous elections as far as what the outcome of the election might be. I think that's a very important point.
Mattie, real quickly, a lot of people look at it that if Bernie Sanders were the nominee, he would guarantee Donald Trump's reelection. Of course, a lot of Republicans had hoped that, or Democrats had hoped that it would be Donald Trump last go round because he'd be easily beatable. We know what happened there. What do you think of that?
I think that so far the Democratic primary has made it very difficult for Donald Trump not to be president come 2021. And you see that in all the ideas we've discussed around this table, with the wealth tax, with an increase in payroll taxes. That is a radical departure from where the Democratic Party used to be. And that will be reflected in debates between, of course, Vice President Biden and the rest of the people running for president, because that used to be the vision that the Democratic Party cast for the United States, and that is no more.
We still have deficits running out of control no matter who's in charge.
That's right.
It's on you, by the way. I mean, John and I are going to dodge it, but I mean, hate to break it to you.
Yeah, we're working on it, Neil.
Yeah, I know.
I honestly truly believe that young people have they've been burned by both parties in this sense, so that it's almost not even on their minds anymore, because again, if both parties inflate the deficit every time that they're in charge, what do you have to lose by just voting for whoever you want?
Yeah.
Interest rates are low, the dollar's strong, the giant deficit doesn't matter. Who cares? But one day interest rates may climb higher, the dollar may start sinking, and then you're going to have a big headache.
Yeah, millennials have zero concept of debt. Zero.
Yeah. Well, as if we've mastered it, I should say me. All right. People are fleeing a lot of these high-tax states, but it's how they're doing